Hello and welcome to this week's podcast where we'll be chatting about all things Britpop. Joining us tonight is Gaza, Jarv, Alex and our special guest Sasha with the YouTube channel Archive of the Best Cringe Material. How is everyone?
Yes, great.
Good.
Sasha?
Yeah.
So
I'm great.
a link to Sasha's channel will be below the video. So go and check that out. It's a great channel. So who wants to kick us off then?
Go on, Sasha.
Me, should I bring something to the table about Britpop? I don't have anything great.
You done a great video, Britpop in a nutshell. So maybe give us a little bit of that in a nutshell. So
Oh,
a nutshell, in a nutshell.
Nutshell. Well, basically, that video I just speak about Britpop, of how well, it's difficult to put story of Britpop in one video, so it's just little things that happened in those ages. Because for me, I still try to figure what is the Britpop, because if you ask people, some see it as a cultural phenomena, some see it as a music genre, some see in just a period of time. So I guess that will be one of the topics for my next videos, what Britpop actually is, because if you watch interviews of big stars, big musicians of Britpop, they don't like to be associated with this name. They don't like it as a genre. So for me, Britpop is still a subject I try to learn. It's still a subject that I try to understand, because apart from music, I like it as a cultural phenomena more, I would say. It's very cozy in some aspects. It's very intriguing because all of the scandals, all of the stuff that happened there, it really keeps up the music alive, especially when you listen to some songs.
Yeah, I agree. I think Britpop was more a movement, a moment in time, more than a genre. Maybe born out of the fall of the Stone Roses after Spike Island a few years earlier. And I think we'd just had enough of grunge and American imports, such as Nirvana and bands like that. And I've watched a few of your videos, and I agree that Radiohead is definitely not a Britpop band. So sort of Britpop bands, you've got your big four: Oasis, Pulp, Suede, Supergrass, and then you've got your others like Alaska, Sleeper, Blue Tones, maybe Shed 7, Echo Belly, the Boo Radleys, Dodgy, Menswear, maybe Cast, maybe Stereophonics, Lung Pigs, Cooler Shaker, Catatonia, Menswear, Placebo, and a few others, probably Black Grape as well. People see the Verve as a Britpop band. I don't. I think they sort of cleverly stayed away from that. So, what about anyone else want to add?
Well, that was a list. Did you run that off the top of your head? Or...
I don't think so, because I could see his eyes looking into the corner.
I was impressed with that. I was really impressed with that.
That was certainly off the top of my head.
I'm well impressed with that one.
Does anyone agree with me that the Stone Roses wasn't a Britpop band?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there was a bit before that, wasn't they? Anyway,
there was way before. They came back in 1993 or 94, or by that time Oasis had sort of took over their schoolyard, so to speak.
It's mainly Oasis and Blur that spearheaded it.
I think that's why Sasha said that some of the bands don't like to be associated with Britpop. I think it was because Oasis and Blur, they sort of took over. They became Britpop, didn't they? And then all the battling with them, and people just thought, I don't want to be involved with any of that.
But there was quite a few that didn't mind, like Supergrass. I think they embraced the Brit culture, and I think Pulp did.
Yeah,
most definitely.
Well, if we could talk about it, that feud between the two of them. I mean, do you think that had to do with the Britpop, or?
I think that was the decline of Britpop. I think that was when it was coming towards an end. The sort of manufactured war, which was.
It seemed to me as though it was like a PR stunt You know, because in those days it was. I think
we're probably jumping
acceptable.
ahead a little bit there because it did come quite towards the end of Britpop.
Oh, right.
So I think a lot of the
No, am I getting ahead of myself? Oh, right.
No, you can talk any part of it really.
Yeah.
But I'll try and keep it uniformed a little bit, and we'll sort of try and go through the bands that we think was Britpop, even though they didn't. Because I don't think any of them really wanted to be called Britpop because they didn't understand it, but it was a movement, not a genre. So
just the word "pop" in there, it makes it sound cheesy.
And I think, but it was. I think it was in the 90s we sort of captured and we were sort of embracing British culture again. Through the 80s, everything was American. Everything we did, from the BMX bike to the films to music, was all American, and we sort of took it back. And I think that's what the movement was. I think it was films as well, like Train Spotting and things like that. We started making decent films again. But I think it was embraced by British culture, like lads magazines as well, and pop magazines like the Q magazines, Nuts magazines, and Atom or Lycan. They was all part of the movement, I think, and heavily induced with cocaine and champagne. As much as they was embracing labour, they was all Thatcher's children and doing sort of Thatcherisms.
Maybe they felt that Britpop just wasn't very rock and roll. It wasn't being associated with kind of a pop group rather than a rock and roll group. Because I thought, well, look, yourself that Oasis always thought they were the second Beatles, which is, in my opinion, that's what I felt. I don't know whether you agree with that.
I think when the first term indie came about, there was Oasis saying, "Well, we're not an indie band, we're a rock and roll band." What is indie anyway?
Well, Suede, they didn't like any label, but they was sort of the indie band. Definitely less Britpop than all of them.
Yeah, I think it was probably hard to accept that kind of name, Britpop. I mean, obviously because of the era and the genre that was at the time, but I think it was probably for them wasn't rock and roll enough, wasn't hard enough.
Where was the line drawn between indie and Britpop?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's the thing.
I think it was the way they went about things. A Britpop band would sort of embrace the Union flag. There was very much sort of cocaine, champagne socialists.
Champagne supernovas, yeah.
That's the thing. Like Sasha was saying, it's hard to define. What it really was. If it was a thing, it must have been a thing because we're talking about it now. But I don't know, because you could Black Grape, which was Shaun Ryder's second band, sort of falls in the category of Britpop. Even though if you said that to him, I think he'd be shocked. I think it was just being round about that time and being successful and embracing Britain, which we don't do a lot. Like now we sort of hate ourselves. The majority of British people hate Britain, and the majority of the world hates Britain. But at the time, we sort of embraced being British again and the British culture and stuff like that.
Well, it was a good era anyway.
So what about girl bands of the Britpop era, like Sleeper and? How do you think they matched up with the more fella bands? Well, you, Sasha, you got opinion on the girls?
Well, I think they were quite underrated at the time, especially Sleeper. Personally, I like Sleeper much more than I like Elastica. I listened to Elastica. They had like 3 catchy songs that I like, and that's it. I tried to listen to the rest of their albums. It wasn't that good. Maybe I just don't like Justin Frischman that much. But Sleeper for me is something completely underrated. I wish they had more fame. I wish they had more hype around them. Because, well, first of all, Louise Werner is like an amazing woman, and I love just to look at her. And secondly, I think they did deserve that she did deserve all the fame because her voice is amazing. I like the music they made. And it just sad that they had like 2 hit songs and no one cared about the rest of their stuff, which is sad. But yeah, that actually was the topic of one of my videos. I want to talk more about women of Britpop because I think there were also bands like Lush and Shampoo, but I may confuse them because they were all kind of like about soap in some ways because Lush is a company that makes soap and shampoos. But also, if should they be considered Britpop because their sound was completely different from what people imagine Britpop to be. So that brings us to the question: what is Britpop?
Exactly.
Should it be defined by several genres or just the periods? Because sometimes Britpop for me it's like a squad of people who hang out around. They had feuds, they had some collaborations, they had some friendship, and the rest were like just around. They're not Britpop, but they were just at the same time. So it's hard to tell.
I don't think it was just the music scene myself. I think it was more than just the music scene. A lot of people might find that a bit strange, but I think it was. I think editors of magazines was part of Britpop and would have thought themselves as Britpop as much as the bands, but it definitely wasn't a genre. So, you know, Echo Belly, another girl band. Well, a woman fronting a band. She, I would have said they was Britpop because they sort of was embracing the British culture as well, and I think a lot of them they embraced the accent as well. The British accent came through more, you know, like Blur, sort of Chaz and Dave style, sort of singing, King sort of style. So yeah, I don't know. Cool Britannia maybe. Anything that was part of Britannia that was cool at the time. And not all bands was cool and they didn't want to be cool. So some of those wouldn't have been Britpop.
Well, that's certainly Radiohead. They wouldn't want to be cool, did they?
They definitely wasn't part of the scene. I think they was the sort of hangover of Britpop. So, you know, we could start talking about the decline of Britpop and sort of where it started becoming a little bit cringe. So you had the battle of Blur and Oasis, which I think Blur wrongly won. That was sort of embarrassing, but it was good for music. I mean, if we had that now, that would be great. And then what completely destroyed Britpop was Robbie Williams with Angels. That's not me saying it. This is what people say. I mean, you know.
What is he class? Is that Angels classed as Britpop then? Is it?
No. He sort of.
Right.
So when you had Britpop,
jumped on, he wanted to become indie, didn't he? Because he was in the boy band, and he wanted to become an indie performer.
Yeah, when he got hooked on Red Bull and he went to Glastonbury, he met Liam Gallagher, didn't he? And started looking like he was, you know, on drugs and stuff like that. And then
he wanted to get a bit mad for it.
And then year after, he produced that sound. I think as soon as he done that, no one wanted to be a part of that sound or that scene again. And then the hangover come where you had Radiohead all upset about everything. And if anyone agrees with that.
Some bad karaoke singer comes in and ruins the night and everybody wants to go home. Yes, I imagine so. It would have killed even rock and roll when he come on. But I mean, I don't mind Robbie Williams. I mean, I don't like his singing, but the songs were written by other people that were good songwriters. So the song itself, I thought, had validity, but him, well, no. But obviously,
I can't stand him. No, I couldn't stand.
Let's not talk too much about Robbie Williams.
No. Let's move on from Robbie.
But with Britpop, you had what was running alongside it was sort of club culture of boy bands and stuff like that. So take that E17. That was sort of the cringe side of music, British music, still is.
Yeah, but I think that was the time when obviously like Britpop, executives were changing the way they wanted the music to be produced, and that was when they started doing cringeworthy Christmas songs and dressed up in white jackets and everything else. I think that's where, because you got to remember, obviously, that it's the executives who decide what's going to be put out there, and then when you had the feud between Oasis and Blur, but then of course you got people coming in like, and I say it's these executives who start putting the dampers on stuff. And then we had Stock Aitken and Waterman.
That was before. That was yeah. So
water infection.
What was that?
So would we say Britpop was as important as the first Summer of Love, for instance, was because that was sort of a movement as well?
I wouldn't say so.
No, was it? At the time we had the Stones, the Beatles, the Kinks. I think it would have been the same.
I think so, yeah, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a movement. Well, sort of a movement, but there's. What did we have in the noughties? There weren't really anything in the noughties, was there?
The noughties was a sad decline of music. You sort of had Radiohead depressing everyone, and then you had Kaiser Chiefs and people like that sort of music went downhill. But you did have the Libertines. Sort of that was part of the hangover of Britpop. Libertines, Kasabian.
I think they were just out there on their own, weren't they? They're really the Libertines.
Yeah, but they would have.
Well.
But you've got
Kings
got
Leon as well.
You've got footage of one of the Libertines buying a record of Oasis as a young kid. So it was definitely Libertines, Kasabian, people like that was part of the hangover of Britpop. So it did have an impact on future.
It definitely
music.
Inspired a lot of people. The Oasis,
and that's what the Summer of Love did, didn't it? Really, like the Kinks and the Beatles. So it had the same sort of impact, and it probably lasted a little bit longer.
I think there was a lot more influence that came from the first Summer of Love, though, because there's only one major band really that you can say influenced people, or people say that they've been influenced from Britpop, which is Oasis. Whereas the Summer of Love, there was loads of bands that influenced people.
I don't know. I think people sort of got influenced by the likes of Pulp. I mean, I feel that Pulp was probably the most underrated of the big four. I think they was probably the best, and lyrically, they was above all the Britpop bands completely. I mean, they did start off in the late 70s, but they was big in the Britpop era, and I don't think they was. I think they embraced the Britpop, where they did not shy away and try and act cool, and their social commentary was, second to none. While Blur and Oasis was sort of having these mythical songs, I think Pulp was actually had some real decent commentary, social commentary.
Well, apparently, Jarvis Cocker went through 13 musicians before he actually decided on the band he got already. That he decided 13 musicians. I mean, that's perfectionism for you, but very good band.
Probably all bass players, but still.
Or drummers.
So-called drummers. Yeah. So starting with you, Sasha, what would you say was your favourite or the biggest band of the Britpop movement?
So I always say that it was Pulp. I agree that they were highly underrated. Even if I talk with someone about Britpop battle, when people try to convince me, no, Blur are like the rulers. They were supposed to win and they won. Or like, no, Oasis first, but like, no. If there was Pulp were supposed to win any Britpop battle, because their albums were more mature. But I think that the success of Oasis and Blur also is their age, because they were quite young. They were younger than Jarvis Cocker, and obviously teenage boys and girls like them more just because they could relate to them. And also Damon Albarn is subjectively and objectively beautiful, so of course he attracted a lot of people. Exactly. Liam Gallagher is also not so bad. He had a style and he could relate to working class people. So of course they had success between them. Where Jarvis Cocker was kind of out of this world. Even his style, his movement, his songs. So maybe he was just ahead of his time, and people will understand his genius now. That was actually what happened.
I think they are starting to. I think,
yeah, I think they're more appreciated now, aren't they?
I think his albums are more renowned than Oasis albums, even though Oasis' first album was pretty good.
Well, that's the problem of Oasis. That's my opinion, but I think their albums got quite boring after the second one because they have the sound, but the problem is it didn't evolve. It was the same chord progression. It's all of their albums sound the same if you listen to the first time. You can't even tell some songs apart because they sound so similar.
Yeah.
100%.
You probably just have one decent song off the whole album.
I think they call them a three. I think they call them a 3-chord trick. I think it was. It was some of them very basic.
The 3-chord trick isn't bad as long as you change them 3 chords now and again.
Yeah.
So,
there's not many people in England that would have you say anything bad about Oasis. There's wherever you go.
I don't know. There's probably not many people, but there's a lot of people now who sort of.
I'm constantly having disagreements with people saying like that they weren't as big as the Beatles.
I think the Stone Roses was far more important than Oasis. Oasis was a bigger band, but what the Stone Roses did, I think Stone Roses is probably one of the most important British bands of all time. I think they're more important than the Beatles, more important than the Kinks. It's just that they did mess it up. They bottled it. Same with the Happy Mondays. Happy Mondays was joyful, and same again. Shaun Ryder, too much drugs. Bad combination. But yeah, I think Oasis was a good band, but they only had 2 albums in them. If they would have left it with the 2 albums, I think they would have been known as a better band. I think doing 4 or 5 or how many albums they did, I'll give up after the first album. Yeah, I think people just got bored of them. It's like a bad sitcom.
The way I look at bands, especially from the 80s and 90s and whatever, especially Oasis and like you say, Ocean Colour Scene or any of those other bands. And
that's what we haven't mentioned. Ocean Colour Scene, was they a Britpop band?
Yeah. But
are you aware of Ocean Colour Scene, Sasha?
No, I'm not sure I've ever heard about that.
Ocean Colour Scene supported Oasis on their Nebworth tour. They're Brummies like us. They're from up the road. They was a great band. A band worth looking into. Ocean Colour Scene. They definitely wasn't a Britpop band, and I think if you look into Ocean Colour Scene, you can see how they separated themselves from that scene. But they was a fantastic band.
But what I try to do with those kind of bands is distinguish between poppy kind of bands, which I personally thought Oasis were, even though I know you probably disagree, but like Pulp and other bands like them, I always thought they were organic bands. They were very natural, the music they sang was very, very natural and organic, where, I don't know, with Oasis and that and Blur, they were more, didn't seem so organic to me, if you know what I mean.
Oh, then. So I've gone, I say Pulp was probably best out of the 4. What about the rest of you, Gaz?
I'd say Pulp, yeah.
You, Jav?
I don't know, I like Pulp, but Oasis did it the first.
If you want to say Oasis, say Oasis.
I'm going to say Oasis because they did spearhead.
He's not going to
I'm going to go Oasis.
He's not going to shut you off. Yeah. He's not going to shut you off.
Al, no, you're definitely not going to say Oasis. Don't forget the Suede as well, which...
Yeah, now for me, for my favourite's probably Blur. Because they're just catchy. It's just catchy, bouncy tunes.
I think he's a great frontman. I think
Think of the Oasis. When they come on the radio, any song, you can sing along to Oasis songs.
Yeah, but you can do that with Take That.
No, I'll just turn the radio off.
Shut you down with that one.
You can do that with Robbie, you know what I mean? You can do that with anybody. I want a song that challenges my mind. Because some songs, even though you've listened to them 50 times, to sound different if it's a good song now and again. if it catches you in a different mood, it can have a different impact on your listening ability. Or is that
Sasha,
too far out? So what about songs then? So what would we say? What song would
what
we
about
say?
Sasha? What about Sasha? What would she pick?
Pulp.
Did you say Pulp? Oh, sorry.
So
well, I think Pulp are the best from out of 4. They are underrated, but I do like Blur a lot. All of my favorite albums from Britpop era were written by Blur. Maybe it's just my crush on Damon Albarn. I don't know. I admire him as a lyricist, as a musician. I've seen him live once. It was Gorillaz, and I love his energy a lot because I think he's really the one that puts everything on the stage. And I do like it. I have Park Life on CD even though I don't have any CD recorder right now, but I just have it because I wanted to have a physical copy of Park Life.
If anyone watches Sasha's YouTube channel, you will find that she's probably in love with Diamond, if I can say.
Okay, we know.
But yeah, I think he's a cracking bloke. Out of Liam and Diamond, if I was to go out to a pub with any of I think it would be Diamond all day long. I think you'd have a better conversation.
Yeah, and he probably wouldn't want to punch your face in. After he's had a couple of beers, he wouldn't want to crack your skull.
Oh yeah, all right then. So we've all got different opinions on that. But what would you say? What song would you say defines Britpop out of all of them?
Robbie Williams.
Right.
No, I would say. I know you used to say the Pulp, but it's Common People. I think.
I was going to say Common People.
Yeah.
Britpop.
I think I'm probably with you there.
Common People.
I was going to say Common People or Live Forever.
Park Life by Blur as well. I think, at least that's what I heard from Stereotype. That's what describes life in Britain. I cannot relate, but every time I read comments, people are like, yes, relate. I'm like, what is Park Life? I don't understand this. But it's a catchy song though. But maybe you have to be British to really understand the song and the album in the whole.
I think it does in a sense, but if anything, what the song portrays is how we can laugh at ourselves, and we've always had that ability to sort of take the piss out of each other. So yeah, I think. But Blur was middle class, where you're talking to working class people, where we're Oasis working class. And I don't think, and I think Diamond would agree, he sort of had a clue what was working class life was like. And I think he put a bit too much colour into it, where most working class life was grey and dull. So,
well, you actually can see that by their style as well. Because I had a little lecture a long time ago on Britpop. I'm an English teacher, so sometimes I have lectures on the culture as well. And I talked with my students about Britpop, and I had like a little Britpop battle in the class, and I tried to make them choose between Blur and Oasis. And when I showed them pictures of Oasis, they were like, "Oh, they are cool." I'm like, "Yes, they are working class heroes. Everyone loved them because they could relate to people." They were like, "Yes, we can see that." Then I showed them picture of Blur. They're like, "They were the rich guys, right?" I was like, "Yes, you're pretty close to that." So they could see by the pictures that Blur were different from Oasis.
Oasis was working class heroes eventually, but in their day, they would have been robbing your lawnmowers. They would have been stealing your lawnmowers and your clothes off your washing line. So, lucky for everyone else that they actually did make it. So they stopped stealing then. But there was toe rags.
Well, they may have ended up being the second craze.
I don't think so. I don't think.
No, I am kidding, by the way.
This is a question that comes up. Would Oasis have been Oasis without Liam? Obviously, you would have had to have Noel, whatever.
Nah.
But would Oasis have been Oasis?
Because even without the singing, he just had that attitude. He's slagging other bands off.
He had the swagger.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I think Noel didn't like the limelight because he wrote the songs and he was the guitar player, and I think that he probably resented the fact that Liam was getting all, even though he was the front man.
I think working class bands seem to drag their siblings into it. If you look back at a lot of working class bands,
Get a job on guitar for our kid.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
there was a lot of bands.
What about Blur without Diamond?
Oh, we'll leave that to Sasha. Sasha can answer that one.
No, these bands are impossible with their frontmen, especially Oasis. I hate when seeing interviews with Noel when he's like, "Oh, it would have been better. It was for me. I would be famous with these albums as well." But I don't think they would work as well because Oasis, it's Noel and Liam, and occasionally some other musicians they changed every so often. But most importantly, those were Noel's lyrics, Noel's music, and Liam's voice. Without Liam's voice, I don't think even Wonderwall would ever get to the hype it has now. Because I listened to Noel's version, I cannot say I like it because it just doesn't sound right when you hear Noel singing Wonderwall. It's different tune, it's different voice. You're like, no, that's not Wonderwall, that's not it. Don't sing that. But yes, Oasis without Liam wouldn't be that successful. I think it's the attitude, it's the voice, it's just everything. It's the style because even now, like if I see Parka, I think of Liam Gallagher. If I see thick eyebrows, I think of Liam Gallagher. If I see a certain look,
the monobrow.
Yeah,
I agree with that most definitely. If you listen to Noel Gallagher's solo stuff, it's pretty good, but it is pretty boring. You know, where Paul Weller left the German Style Council and created a solo career, so you could see that, you know, Paul Weller was a frontman. I think that's it. I think Noel Gallagher just ain't a frontman. He's just not a frontman.
No.
Oh,
It's that phenomenon that you, when you hear that song for the first time, whether it's Oasis or Blur, whatever, that's printed in your brain, and as soon as somebody wants to replicate it, you can't seem to shake it off and say, well, they did a great rendition of it, but it's just not the same. And it's that thing that it gets printed into your brain the first time you hear it, that you can't accept anybody else singing that because how they sang it and how they, you know, all that. Yeah.
So I don't think we've accomplished much. We've finding what Britpop is, but that's the beauty of it. You know, we
start out with good intentions.
Has anyone got anything to add that we can add to?
Yeah, power to Robin Williams.
So, no, we're going to edit
Chuck him off, Wayne. Chuck him off.
Ban me now, that's it. But I love Robbie Williams.
I do think you should check out Ocean Colour Scene if you get a chance, Sasha.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Oh, Ocean Colour Scene were the greatest.
They're really underrated, and probably, you know, if you check out Moseley Shoals,
yes,
as the first album, and then you'll slowly get hooked on them, I think.
Yeah,
another great frontman.
They lived about 5 miles away from us, didn't they?
Yeah,
about 5 or 7 miles from us. So they're locals anyway. Very good band. But I think you know, the Britpop era was a great era. So,
I think it was good for music, and anything good for music, good music, guitar music, is at the time I didn't like Britpop. I'll be honest with you. I still had the effects of Stone Roses and the Happy Mondays, and wondering why they wasn't doing anything. So, you know, I wasn't a big fan of Blur or Oasis, and I didn't really listen to Pulp that much until after. And then I fell in love with Pulp. I think they're brilliant. Suede I always listened to, but it was sort of one of those bands that sort of his voice could grate on you after a little bit.
I think it became a massive competition, didn't it, between the bands? A massive competition. I can do better than you.
What about Shed 7? Where does Shed 7 fit into this? Are you aware of Shed 7, Sasha?
I've heard of them, but I didn't listen to them, I'd say.
Yeah, they're one of my favourite bands of the 90s.
They're very low key. I don't know if they fit into.
It's one of them bands where you don't think they've made that many songs, but then you know you hear the songs and they've got a lot of famous songs. You'd recognise them if you heard them.
I think Supergrass was a good band. I just think they shouldn't have released that All Right song. I think that was a bit cheesy. I think the rest of their songs, some of their albums are great to listen to, but and they was the youngest of the bunch. They was practically children when they came out. And they started, but they was a great band. They were.
I did quite like. All right, when I was when I
Yeah,
was
well,
a
you
youth.
was probably 6 then.
Bouncing around.
It was for 6-year-olds.
I used to sing that.
First come out, to be fair.
We are free.
I used to sing that with the band I was in. I loved it. I did. It was
You
great.
I liked it as well. It's good
I
stuff.
loved it. I loved performing it.
I'm on my own there. I hated it. But I liked Supergrass.
Yeah.
Okay then. So I think we've achieved nothing, but it's been great discussion. Thanks for coming on, Sasha.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Without you, this would have been rubbish. And being an English teacher, I might get some lessons off you. I could do with learning my native tongue. Yeah. So what I'll do is anyone that is watching this, we're sort of like an indie kid's wet dream. Not many people watch us. We're very rare. Yeah. So if anyone is watching this and got to the end, check out Sasha's. I know I've been saying her name wrong all the way through, but check out Sasha's channel, which is archive of the best cringe material, and plus you've got TikTok account, and some other socials which we'll put below. So anything else you want to say, Sasha?
Oh, I'm glad you invited me to this. It's my new experience. It's kind of my first collaboration on my YouTube as well, at all. Like in my YouTube career, I would say it's my first collaboration. So I'm really glad it was with you. It was wonderful. Thank you. It was a nice experience.
Yeah,
Hopefully
great.
we do it again. Hopefully it can be a regular thing, and we'll tackle some subjects. Well, I like to think we don't just look at subjects; we stare at them and make them cry. Yeah, so hopefully, we're a tiny little channel. We've only just sort of started out, but if you want to check out any unsigned bands, we have a channel called On the Verge Media, which we film. We before all this lurgy started, we used to go out and film unsigned band and undiscovered bands around our own town. At their gigs, so I'll put a link to that. I'll send you an email link. Check out some of those bands. They're influenced by Oasis and Blur, most definitely. Hopefully we can get you on again. And pleasure's been all ours.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
And your knowledge is good. Your knowledge is good of Britpop and stuff.
Your English is superb.
Yeah, your English.
I wish I had the same dialect.
Yeah. No, great, absolutely great, Sasha, and we look forward to if you join us. If you want to join us again, you're welcome. So, absolutely, the more the merrier.
Thank you, of course.
What we do normally, we just get a subject. As I say, our main channel was On the Verge. We obviously can't film bands anymore.
Well, not yet, anyway. So.
But we just get a subject like the Ultimate Frontman and just chat a load of rubbish and try and cheer each other up for these strange times.
Have a laugh, yeah. Have a laugh. Yep.
Brilliant. So hopefully it wasn't too painful for you.
No, it wasn't. It was just a bit unusual because your accent is not what I'm used to. A little bit. I am, but it's higher because my brain is used to American accent for now because I have lots of American colleagues. And I'm like, oh my God, the Brits again.
Hey man,
Hey
man, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, we can put the accent on for you if you want, if that'll help.
We're sort of Midland.
I don't mind.
So our accent is always made fun of by everyone in Britain. Well, everyone in England. So we're always the laughing stock. Our accent.
Apparently, we've got the stupidest sounding accent.
Yeah.
I can't see why they think we're stupid.
It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Well, here you would sound smart because for Ukrainians and for Slav people, anything with British accent is like, oh my God, they're so smart. I can never do that accent. So here people admire British accent.
We'll soon change our minds on that one.
Yeah. I think we don't want to listen to Brummies anymore.
Yeah, you will sound extremely smart here, and people will admire you just for your accent, and just because you came to Ukraine, people will love you here.
Well, hopefully one day we can make it over there. I wouldn't mind. Alex goes to Bulgaria quite a lot, so is that close to?
It's not far away.
Yeah.
Alex loves going to Bulgaria. He sees himself half Bulgarian now.
So yeah, Ukraine is actually a good country to visit as well. We are wonderful people. I can say it from my purest heart ever. And we love foreigners if they are not Russians. Anyone else is welcome.
Let's just hope Putin isn't listening to us. Russia is a strange place, isn't it, really? It is really. I imagine there is some nice Russian people. It's just that, they're ruled by, let's just call it what he is, a knobhead.
Yeah. No, it's been great. It's nice to have a fresh face on the podcast because we have a lot of fun, but we also have serious conversations as well. And it's occasionally, yeah. If we can't stop laughing, we laugh a lot. So we like a giggle. So that's good.
We cry a lot as well.
You make me cry a lot.
Yeah, we'll try and come on again, Sash, and we'll find some other subject.
Yeah, we'll have to try and do it a little bit earlier for you as well.
I thought it was the other way around.
That would be nicer. Sorry?
I thought it was the other way around. I thought you was 2 hours before us.
I don't even say, but it's a bit late for now.
We'll let you go then.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. It was nice to meet all of you.
I'll email you on Tuesday.
Sure. Okay. Bye bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Sasha.
Thank you.
Coming on.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye. Good night.
See you later.
See ya.